Hi everyone, Nick here. Today we're having a look back at another F1 2020 league race, this time at the Circuit of the Americas in, well, America. Clues in the name, innit? This isn't one of my favourite tracks, I'll be honest. In fact, if I were to rank all of the tracks on this game, I'm fairly confident this one would come out at the bottom. Up until this point of the track, it's okay, first sector or so, but after that I feel like it falls off in sector 3. Oh my god, the start of that is just, no, just please, no. It's not one of my favourite tracks, and I don't have a particularly good track record around here either. I don't think I've ever had a podium. If I have, I can't remember it, it was that unmemorable. So, yeah, not one of my favourite tracks. Not one of my most successful tracks. However, I was again in the Alpha Tauri and I felt like I was driving well, so I still felt like I was in a position to get a good result. I wasn't thinking I'm going to smash everyone, pole, win, fastest lap, anything like that, but I was moderately confident as you can be around your worst track, but yeah, I was hopeful we could have a good, fun and successful race. Into qualifying then, and I was hoping for an okay first lap. As per usual, we weren't going to try and push the bar out too much, and I felt like we were having an okay sector 1, making sure we respected the track limits, and we got through that okay. But then for some reason we decided to massively cut that corner there, which was never going to work, and got ourselves an invalidation. So it puts us under pressure for the rest of the session. My second run was again better, but not much, because as I'd invalidated my first run, I needed to get a lap on the board, and I wasn't as attacking as maybe I could have been. Maybe a little bit too cautious through there, for example, and as a result the lap time just isn't there. We're barely beating our previous, albeit invalid, lap time by more than a couple of tenths, and that was at the time only good enough for 7th, which has slipped to 8th by this time that I started my final run. So we had to be a bit more aggressive here. We had a lap on the board, we just needed to go and actually get a time that was vaguely representative. So turn 1, not too bad. I was finding it a little bit tricky through turn 1, with the back occasionally stepping out if I turned in too sharply. This is probably the best bit of a track for me. This bit nice. I go in here on 6th gear, and then you sort of come back on it, find the right turning point to the left-hander, get it turned in, and then this bit I just find really clumsy. You try and cut as much of that corner and run as much over the curb on the exit as you dare without invalidating. I've just about managed to get the right balance, and then we've turned in nicely on the hairpin and got a nice release onto the straight. So at this point we're 2 tenths up. Nothing spectacular, but the second and third sectors are where we're going to make up some time. So brake not too late there, bit of a lock up, we get the car turned in and we get a nice exit, and through this bit, which I find really Mickey Mouse, we get through there nice and smooth but also a bit aggressive on the throttle, and we've got through that section. We've made up a couple of tenths, nearly half a second, so we've got 2 corners left to go. The difficult penultimate left, we're going to lob it in here, and we have done it quite nicely. So we're nearly 6 tenths up. This could be really good. Final corner. Need to nail it, and we don't. We run infinitesimally wide on the exit of the last corner, and that invalidates our time, which would have been around a 1:32.1, which would have put us 3rd on the grid, 3rd or 4th, something like that. Instead we're 10th. Not what we were hoping for, but at the time I wasn't too disappointed, because I still felt like I had some okay pace, which meant I could still recover this in the race. So, start of a race, starting on soft tyres, and we're going to try and do as well as we can. So, start not too bad, got a little bit up maybe on DP on the right hand side. Turn 1 here is so tricky. Everything concertinas together and there's so many lines for it. So we're going to try and be cautious, but also conscious that Cypherist is behind us and we don't want to let him through because he's on medium tyres and that could ruin our race. So we're now behind Port, who's taking some interesting lines through the S's, and we're just trying to make sure that we don't damage our car on him, because the races, we've got 28 laps. There's no point in sending it out the inside of one of these S's where it's not a real overtaking place and losing our front wing and completely ruining the whole race. So we've managed to survive the first half of a lap. We've turned in to the hairpin and there's cars in front of us. One of them is a Ferrari, and the Ferraris are not blessed with straight line speed, it has to be said. So even without DRS, we're going to get alongside Stefano. We're going to try and go round the outside of the left-hander, and we've kind of got it okay. We've now got the inside line to this right-hander, and you can see from the red arrows we're now just about ahead. But he's going to then come back at us. Really brave, really nice move there. And we give him space on the apex of the left-hander. Port has gone ahead of us, so that's one place. But now we've got the inside line to the triple apex right-hander, and that gets the job done from Stefano. And we are now up into 8th place. So that's, in my book anyway, a decent first lap. We didn't really take any risks. We gained a bonus place because someone else span off, and we did a nice overtake and some good side-by-side racing with Stefano. Fair play to him. He could have easily not tried to come back at me in the middle of that opening to Sector 3, but he did. And he stuck it out and he nearly got the job done. So yeah, fair play, good racing. Nice one. So now we've got to try and catch up with the cars in front, and as they're battling each other through the S's, that's going to give me a chance to catch up with them. You can see we've got 3 cars ahead. We've got Monty, Hags and DP, and we're going to see what we can do here. So Monty is getting very close to the back of Hags. He goes very wide into the hairpin in the middle of Sector 2, and we're able to get a better exit than him and out drag him down the straight. So that's us up into 7th place, and we're thinking at this point, well, DP's not that far ahead. Maybe if we'd had DRS we'd have been able to do something about that, but at this point we were too far back to be able to actually make a move. And again, we're just going to be not super cautious, but we're just going to say, okay, Hags, DP, you guys, you battle it out in front of me. If you want to take creative lines, go along side by side or anything like that, go for it. I'll hopefully be able to pick up the pieces if you crash into each other, and then when we get to a more traditional overtaking place, then hopefully then I can do something. Talking of traditional overtaking places, we're now going to cross the line to start lap 3, and we're on the tail of DP. Turn 1 is a decent place to overtake, not my favourite, but it's a place you can, and we're going to go in here, be a little bit cautious. DP gives us space on the inside, but he's always ahead of us and he's going to accelerate away, so that's absolutely no problem. And I don't really like overtaking into turn 1 because of the different lines you can take there, and I just feel like maybe the DRS zone isn't long enough. It's just not my favourite place to attempt any kind of overtakes. But we're definitely being held up at this point. So while I was still thinking not safety first, but let's not go full send at any point here, I was still thinking we do probably need to get through if we don't want to get cut adrift, because the gap between Hags and the cars in front in the top 4 was getting rather large. So we've got DRS this time. DP also has DRS and we're closing up here, but DP is getting very close to Hags in his Ferrari and is going for a move up the inside, but Hags hangs it out and we're able to then say, okay, cool, well, we'll have a bit of that as well. So the next corner is a right-hander. We've got the inside line. We get on the throttle nice and early to make sure that he can't come back at us like Stefano did, and that is us up into 6th place. Now the target now is going to see if we can get past Hags, and unsurprisingly this wasn't overly difficult, not because Hags is bad or anything, but because he's in a Ferrari, he's not going to have DRS, he's not going to have a tow, we're going to have all of those things and we are just going to cruise past. That is particularly upsetting, I think, if you're a Ferrari fan or indeed our Hags. So we get the job done, and we're now in 5th place. And you can see, top left-hand corner of the screen, we are now 6 seconds behind Tony in 3rd and 5 seconds behind Mav in 4th. So that gap ahead has extended. So we need to try and see if we can close that ASAP. And as you can see here, by the end of lap 8, when the first car, DP behind me, pitted, he was about 5 seconds behind. So we'd been able to pull away from him, but not massively gain on Tony and Mav ahead. Maybe a second and a half or so in the course of those 4 or 5 laps. But then they started pitting as well. So both of them pitted at the end of lap 9. So that was going to elevate us up into 3rd once we breeze past Mav as he's having his pit stop, and Tony as well, I guess. And that puts us in 3rd, some 7.5 seconds behind Semi and even further behind Maxi in the lead. But there was a lot of murmurings in the chat that DP, who'd pitted a couple of laps before, was actually doing quite well and kind of flying. So I thought we need to pit, and we don't want to get ditched by an undercut, because the undercut is reasonably good here, even though tyre wear isn't tragic. So we pitted along with the other top 2 drivers, and we're going to drop a few places here. So we obviously dropped places to Tony and Mav, who were ahead of us beforehand. And then you can see as we exit the pit, we're going to go down to 8th. There's Owl, who hasn't pitted yet, gets ahead of us. But DP, remember, he was 5 seconds behind us when he pitted. He's now less than a second. So you can see those 2 laps, if he'd had another lap, I mean, admittedly he's on soft, so he's going to definitely be 2-stopping, but he could have jumped us, and that would have really, really hurt our race, because on his soft tyres, in a Red Bull, is going to be reasonably difficult to overtake. And if I'm going to have any intention of getting anywhere near the podium, I need to get on with it straight away on my second stint. And that's exactly what we were planning to do. As you can see, Owl in front of us, he started on mediums, hasn't stopped. We're going to put everything on rich fuel, overtake DRS, and we're going to get the job done at the first time of asking up the inside, well before the corner actually, and we're up into 7th place. And the gap ahead is about 5 seconds to Tony, 4 seconds to Mav, and we've got to try and catch that. So, 7th became 6th when Beckford pitted at the end of lap 11, and then at the end of the following lap, Stefano pitted, and that meant we were back up into 5th, which is where we were, well, net position anyway, before we pitted ourselves. So, at this point, it was trying to make sure that we closed on the cars in head, and as you can see, by the end of lap 17 we were getting very close. We had DRS now on Mav, but more importantly you can see that Tony had 6 seconds worth of penalties and Mav had 3 seconds worth of penalties. It was also increasingly apparent that they were both planning on 2-stopping, whereas I wasn't, unless there was some kind of safety car incident. So I was pretty much going to go to the end on these tyres. So I didn't need to overtake the cars ahead. I just kind of wanted to, because, well, just sitting behind people, waiting for them to pit or to have their penalties applied, that's kind of boring. So we're going to try and do as well as we can in terms of overtaking them, but it's going to be difficult because, okay, we're going to get DRS on Mav, but Mav is also going to get DRS on Tony, and he's also going to get a tow. Now at this point he's probably about a second behind Tony, so we've got as good a chance as any as we're going to get here. So we're going to turn everything up, we're going to not use all our EOS because we don't have enough. We're going to think about a move from the inside, and the virtual safety car comes out to save Mav from a second breezing in one race. However, we still know that they're going to have to pit, so we want to stay quite close to them because we don't want to lose too much behind the virtual safety car. But then, unexpectedly, coming out of that corner, Tony loses it, goes left. We have to slow down because Mav goes through but also slams the brakes on, and we can't overtake Tony in time. So he has managed to swap places and lose us a little bit of time to Mav, but it doesn't really make too much difference, and Tony at this point thinks, do you know what, that's probably a sign that my tyres aren't doing amazingly, so I'm going to pit. So he comes in for his second stop, and he was going to put soft tyres on, which was going to be interesting to see if he was going to be able to catch up, but we'd have to wait and see. Mav pitted on the end of lap 19 to try and counteract and respond to Tony's pit stop, and from there on, well, he was trying to catch the cars in front. Maxi was now 11.9 seconds ahead, Semi was 6 seconds ahead. We managed to get it down a little bit, managed to get within 2 seconds of Semi by the end of the race, and we were hoping that maybe we could pressure him into a penalty, but unfortunately, well, fortunately for Semi anyway, he didn't get a penalty, and as a result I crossed the line and finished third. And to be honest, I'm perfectly fine with that. As I said at the start of the video, this isn't one of my best tracks and it's not one I massively like. So to get out of there with a podium after, well, bottling qualifying and starting 10th, 7 places gained, yeah, I mean that's not too bad. And it was my 3rd podium in a row, which means that, yeah, I'm doing quite well. Coincides obviously with driving in the AlphaTauri, but you can see we're now in 6th, equal 5th with Tony on points, but behind on countback in the championship on 87 points, and we're just 43 points off the lead halfway through. Let's see what the second half of the season will have in store for us, and if we can continue this good run. So I suppose today's idea of what we've learned is, just because we have a bad qualifying, that doesn't mean that the race is gone. You can always regain places and try and have a good race after a bad qualifying. Don't give up. Try and have a good race and see what you can do. Make the most of the opportunities and then see what happens. I feel like I'd made the most of what I had and had a solid race. Probably could have been a little bit more exciting in the second half, but hey, we'll take a podium all day long round Kota. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, then don't forget to do the old liking and subscribing stuff if you haven't already done so. It massively helps me out and helps out the channel. And if you're interested in social media type things, then you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, details in the description below this video, and you can catch up in between races on Discord as well, again details in the description. And if you want to watch these races live as they happen every Wednesday and Sunday, then why not pop over to Twitch to see how they go. Details on screen and, yep, you guessed it, in the description below. But until the next race and the next video, goodbye.